Sanje Juda Zoge Jonam No Janjo Mado Dane Yazuji Dage Jinso Yebe Sonam Ye Dola Benjir Sanje Numaresho Sanje Juda Zoge Jonam No Janjo Mado Dane Yazuji Dage Jinso Yebe Sonam Dola Benjir Sanje Numaresho Sanje Juda Zoge Jonam No Janjo Mado Dane Yazuji Sonam ye Dola Benjir Sanje Numaresho Om ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Dathagato Yavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Vati Mahashramanaye Svaha Om Yedarama Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Dathagato Yavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodham Evam Vati Mahashramanaye Svaha Om Yedarama Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Yavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Vati Mahashramanaye Svaha. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation causes as well as taught by the Gracia. Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvaha. Okay, continuation from where we left the first session is about the bodhicitta and the equalizing, the first step, equalizing self and others. So here, when we go through, particularly when we go through tough times, difficult times, where you are in dire need of help, you and say 10 people, 20 people, we are on the same, you're all in the same state. And somebody asks you, okay, you're all very thirsty and hungry for the last 1 week or 10 days, trapped somewhere, and somebody brings just a glass of water and say, who would like to have it? Our response most likely would be that I'll have it. And particularly when you go through a very dire hunger or thirst, the response is going to be, I'd like to have it. When you're not hungry, when you're not thirsty, you may say, I'll share. But when we are really going through this phase, you'll say that I'll have it. And, okay, if you did come across such a situation where you were into acute hunger, thirst, cold, heat, and so forth, under such situation, how your mind reacts, how many of you had that experience? Raise hands. At least once in a lifetime. Okay, is there anybody who likes to share your experience? You are trapped in an unexpected situation of acute hunger, acute thirst, acute cold, acute heat, fear, Anybody who likes to share your experience? Anyone? No one? Christian?
Yeah, I was in the Himalaya and I was climbing a mountain and then we got into a storm and we couldn't see, we had no visibility and the fog and then we finally made it to the top and then we had to go back, but it was like below zero, like minus 35, so that was cold. It was really cold. And
so there's no AC? There's no heating system?
No, that's just your body.
Okay, no heating system around?
No, you're in the element.
Yes.
And also the fear, because we didn't know. I was with a Nepalese Sherpa.
Yes.
The two of us. People were gone because I felt really tired. And then when we went down, I was like, I wanted to just lay down and stop walking. I was so exhausted.
Exactly. Yeah. So these experiences, when you go through such very difficult situations, these experiences are very precious. Remember this experience and include them in your meditation. Say if, like, you go, for example, sometimes when the weather is very cold, hunger automatically comes. It's a biological reaction. Hunger comes. And then at times the hunger can be so acute. And it can be so acute. Sometimes thirst is so acute. And you just don't know what to do. And under such situation, if somebody else who likes to have this glass of water, you will say, I'll let have it. And what about others? Yes, others also thirsty. Why you want to have it? What's your response? At best, your response would be, I am thirsty. This is the only answer you have to say that I want to have it. But others also thirsty? The reason applies to others also. Who likes to have it now? I like to have it. Why you? I'm thirsty. So, which means that although you may not verbally utter this, but deep inside you're feeling that I'm more important than others. This is a gross self-centered attitude. Self-centered attitude, there are two. Gross self-centered attitude and a subtle self-centered attitude. Arhats, meaning Shravakas and Pratik Buddha Arhats, who seek personal liberation, they don't have this gross self-centered attitude. They don't say that I'm more important than others. They don't say this. But they still have this self-centered attitude. Because of this, that they could not attain Buddhahood. The subtle self-centered attitude is there. Because of this, they could not attain Buddhahood. So what is the difference between the subtle self-centered attitude and the gross self-centered attitude? Okay. The Arhats, they don't have self-grasping ignorance. They already eradicated self-grasping ignorance, but they still have self-centered attitude. Is there anybody who likes to share with us, what do you think? What kind of self-centered attitude the Arhats still have? Anyone? Let me repeat it. The Arhats, meaning somebody who is already liberated from samsara, seeking personal liberation, not really interested to become Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. So these people, they are already free from samsara. What do you mean by free from samsara? Which means they have cut the self-grasping ignorance. Ignorance is cut. The self-grasping ignorance is cut. So it's no more there. Because of this, they are freed. Find the root of samsara is self-grasping ignorance. When this root is cut, like the poisonous tree, the root is cut. However, millions of poisonous leaves are growing on the tree. They all dry on their own. Likewise, when you cut the self-grasping ignorance, all the miseries of samsara, your samsara terminates. Your samsara stops for you. So that is when you become Arhat. So these Arhats, who are yet to become enlightened, they don't have the gross self-centered attitude. They still have the subtle self-centered attitude. Because they still have the subtle self-centered attitude, that stops them from becoming a Buddha. Right? So my question to you is, can you imagine a self-centered attitude within a person who could see everything as like a dream? Everything like a dream just projected by your own mind. And still, they have the self-centered attitude. Can you imagine what kind of self-centered attitude is that? If you could identify that, that becomes the subtle self-centered attitude. Anyone? Yes, Stephen?
Actually, my answer is no, but it's always been a very interesting...
No, what do you mean by no? Which no?
No, I can't imagine.
Okay, if you cannot imagine, hold, okay.
Because I think I know, like, some of the answers. I mean, they're not seeking enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings. Right? So there's some kind of subtle self-centered attitude, because they're happy to rest in their own liberation, not strive for full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. But, like, if us at our level, we have some kind of feeling, similitude for wanting to seek enlightenment for sentient beings without any wisdom, I'm speaking for myself. I find it so difficult to understand how an arhat who has direct perception of emptiness, how can they not want to seek enlightenment? It seems like impossible.
Okay, because it is difficult, I ask this question. Okay, you got it. Thank you.
Well, it's a bit similar. I think they enjoy so much the bliss of nirvana, so they don't want to get out. They enjoy so much the bliss.
Okay, they enjoy the bliss.
The nirvana state.
They enjoy the bliss of nirvana that they are not interested to. So in fact, that attitude is way before they attain nirvana. The attitude flows. That self-centered attitude flows even before that. Before attaining nirvana, they had the same problem. A subtle self-centered attitude is there even before attaining nirvana. So after attaining nirvana, I understand it. This is why the bodhisattvas on the 8th bhumi, they are given the warning that don't stay in the bliss of the meditation for too long. This is a warning given by the Buddha to the 8th bodhisattva bhumi, the bodhisattvas on the 8th bhumi. So even before that, there's a self-centered attitude. The flow is there. Okay, anyone? Okay, let's hear Virginia.
They don't have the suffering anymore.
They don't have?
Anahat doesn't have the suffering anymore because he's liberated from suffering.
They don't have self-grasping anymore. They don't have. Okay, they do have suffering. They do have suffering. Okay, I'll explain this. These are nuances, right? When you say that, this is a blueprint of Paris. This is a blueprint of Paris. Most likely the point will not be there. This point will not be there in the blueprint of Paris. All the details will not be there. You getting it? So in reality, there's a there is the point in Kalachakra Center here. There's also the black hat, which you call as Magala. These don't come in the blueprint of the Paris. So what I'm saying is that details are not there. So in generally speaking, we say that arhats, they're free from samsara. But if you go into detail, so here we stay together, we have like 10 days together, so we have time. So these details have to be discussed. Yes, arhats still have suffering. Not only suffering, they have the suffering also. Suffering change. Right? They have for example, the first suffering and the second suffering also. And the third one, under the sway of karmas is also there. Not under the sway of the afflictions, but the karmas movement is still happening. Okay, in other words, the arhats do have the pains. They have headache. They have the body ache. Say there are many anecdotes of the arhats who go through these difficulties. For example, Mugalayana, who was sitting on we paint on the left side of Buddha Shakyamuni, standing. Mugalayana was an arahat, and also that he had the miracle greatest of the miracle power amongst the Buddha's disciples. One time he and Shariputra, through miracle power, they went to visit the hell realm, and they saw somebody there, a non-Buddhist teacher there, and then the teacher sent a message to them saying, "Tell my my students in the human realm not to do any kind of whatever puja that they do, like animal sacrifice or whatever, because that makes more misery on me. So Shariputra and Mughlayana, coming back to the planet Earth, human realm, Mughlayana went to give the message to the students. And the students, they have no clue what Mughlayana is saying is true. They have no clue. So instead they thought that Mughlayana, he is a great rival of our tradition. He is from Buddha Shakyamuni, and we are following our teacher, different traditions. So he is actually insulting us, insulting our teacher. So they beat him, Mughlayana, terribly. Mughlayana was already arhat. And he almost on the verge to die. Then finally, some monks, they found Mughlayana and then rescued him and asked, you have such a miracle power, why do you not perform the miracle powers? So which means that he was in agonizing pain. And he said that forget about actually performing miracles. Even the thought to perform the miracles did not come to his mind because of the karma. So, in other words, arhats do have the pains. They do have the suffering. They don't have afflictions. They don't have afflictions. Afflictions already cut and ignorance cut. Okay. So, what kind of self-centered attitude do they have?
My understanding, Geshe-la, is that unlike the gross self-centered attitude, which is I am more important than others, arhats still have the subtle self-centered attitude, which is I am oblivious to others.
Okay, good.
Maybe when they they choose this path of personal liberation, there is kind of lack of self-confidence to become Buddha. And then once they are arhat, because of the strong tendency they accumulated during all the path, it's more difficult to come back to bodhicitta because of the tendency.
No, the question is, what is that self-centered attitude within them? What is that?
Maybe the tendency to go to personal nirvana more than...
So what drives them to go to personal nirvana? That is self-centered. What is that like? Mary?
Oui, moi je pense que c'est ce qui les a amenés. Ils avaient l'égocentrisme donc grossier, c'est ça qui a fait qu'ils sont devenus des arhats et ne pensaient qu'à eux-mêmes. Ça c'est une première chose. La deuxième chose c'est que comme ils ont encore des maladies ou des trucs comme ça, c'est parce que les graines ou les empreintes de cet égocentrisme sont encore dans eux et donc c'est ça qui ils sont dans cet état-là, dans cet état.
First, they have the selfish mind.
A little louder, that others could hear.
So they have the gross level of the selfishness. Then after, why they become sick? Because they have the seeds of
les graines et les empreintes encore de cet
the
égocentrisme.
imprints of this type of selfishness, the gross level, the grossier.
Ouais, des
They
grossiers.
still have that. They
Ouais.
still have the imprints of that.
Okay, imprints of the gross selfishness, that is the subtle selfishness. Okay, good. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, so that's the ultimate answer. Yes, and Sophie?
En français, c'est un peu ça. Je pense qu'en fait, leur esprit est plus limité. En fait, ils ont
The best is, and Sophie, you speak in English, and then English people can hear, and then the Venerable Jimbala will translate for the French.
Okay. I think their mind are a little bit limited, but it's not broad as it can be. It's like they're only looking at the direction which is smaller, and the connection with other are smaller than the big one, the connection with everyone which is more spaceful.
Okay, I think what Anne Sophie is saying is that they think is very narrow-minded. They're not broad. Bodhisattvas, they think is very broad. Okay, so let us see what the Laura said and what Anne Sophie said. Let us see. Okay, So all these, just see that how these are reflected in your mind. Once you know these nuances, what is subtle self-centered attitude, what is gross self-centered attitude, and then you observe your mind, when you see these things, then the real practice begins. Otherwise, say, okay, this is your practice, this is what I do, this on a daily basis, I've another 2 hours a day in this practice. But you actually don't see what's going in your mind. One is about the transformation of your mind. Our mind is to be transformed. For that matter, we need to know how the mind operates. Where this is going wrong, we have to fix it. Okay, so let's see that the self-grasping ignorance, I am more important than others. This is very gross. And it is not only very gross, it is cognitively erroneous. Cognitively erroneous. If you say that I'm more important than others, others will also say I'm more important than you. Then they cannot be one more important than other and the other more important than you. This is not possible. Cognitively, this is erroneous. So this gross self-centered attitude, it is cognitively erroneous, and this cognitive error is not with the Shravakas and Pratik Buddhas. They so well know that we're all equal in wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. They all know that so well. They know that by no means I'm more important than others. They know that so well. Let's not forget it. This is gross self-centered attitude. It is cognitively erroneous. Then what is the subtle one? So let's say that some people, they have the tendency that when they see, okay, even in the family, even among the small children, when they see a beautiful flower, instantly they will think of, okay, giving this to a mom, giving this to your dad, or put it in my house. Some children, beautiful flower, I'll keep it in my house. Okay, then you see somebody giving a chocolate, okay, I'll enjoy this. And some children, they see the chocolate, oh, I'll share with my brother, I'll share with my sister. Okay, do you agree with me that these are the different mindsets people have? How many agree with me? Yes, this is human psychology. So with this, that say, who likes to have this water? I like to have the water. Okay, and what about others? Yeah, who likes to have the water? I like to have this water. For sure, that is the gross self-centered attitude. Whereas let's say that, okay, just share your thoughts, right? Share your thoughts. And the people talk about, oh, I have this problem, and I went through this, I do this. And again, share thoughts. I do this, right? Some people, they share thoughts about, oh, in the Kalachakra, we do like this, we need the prayer flags. In culture, we need the prayer flags, we need this, we need that, and so forth. You talk more broadly. Some people talk about only the self, right? So it's not that you're wrong. What you said is wrong, no. But there is a problem with the narrowness in your thinking, the smallness of the scope of thinking. This is the reality. It's very small in the scope of thinking. It doesn't mean that you are indifferent with other people. Indifferent is a very strong word. Being indifferent, who cares? This attitude, this very gross selfishness. Whereas you are not being indifferent, but your mind is always around the self. This is known as focus on the self by being oblivious to others. What Laura said? Focused on the self by being oblivious to others. You are not aware. You are not aware, so obsessed with the self that you are unaware of others' existence. So where the broadness is missing, this is subtle self-centered attitude. And when you have this, the mothers will think about, instead the mother sees, they say something nice, will think about the children. Will not think about, oh, I have a nice thing for me. No, but instantly think about the children. So this is where the bodhisattvas think about the broad, the scope, all the sentient beings. So two things mean the same. One, where you're oblivious to others by being focused on the self, not being indifferent, but being oblivious to others. This is subtle selfishness, the subtle selfishness, by being oblivious to others. Oblivious means that your mind cannot go beyond. So the example given would be like, for example, say the subtle selfishness, it is not cognitively erroneous. It is cognitively okay, cognitively valid. But the only thing is that the scope of the thought is very small. Example that I give you is the light. Say, if you are to go to a garden, a beautiful garden, huge, beautiful garden, and you reach there in the dark. Oh, I came here to enjoy the garden, but there's no light. Oh, never mind, I have a torch. A small torch. Penlight torch. So with this torch, what can you see? You can see only one flower. You can see only one flower. There's nothing wrong in it. But what's the problem? The problem is that it's very focused on one, and it's not focused on whole the garden. You're not enjoying the garden, you're enjoying the flower. So this light and the sun, what's the difference? The broadness. Both are equally light. Both help to remove the darkness of something. But the sun, that things, not only it removes the darkness, but also it pervades to the whole garden. So there's the narrowness of the thinking. When that is there, this is known as subtle self-centered attitude. Self is not missed, but being oblivious to others. So narrowness of thinking. That is self-centered attitude. This is what the Shervakas and Predic Buddhas have. And if you listen to some of the stories, anecdotes of the Shervakas and Predic Buddhas, you will be most likely people will think that they are bodhisattvas. Okay, I'll share a story. These are very important for us to know. Once you know these anecdotes, then from this you will see that what does it mean by subtle self-centered attitude. You may think that, oh, this person is a bodhisattva, but not. It's a Shervaka. So once a Shervaka Arhat, Pavatatul in Tibetan, he was going his way, and the mere sight of him is extremely appealing. There's such a great purity there. This is what you're going to see there. And there was one elderly lady who was suffering from leprosy. You know what leprosy is? Where, in worst cases, the fingers can drop. In worst cases. So she was holding a bowl of porridge. And just by seeing this Arhat, she was extremely, say, a great degree of reverence came to his mind. How I wish that I get a chance to offer this porridge to this great monk. And the Pavatatul, this Arhat, from distance, he could sense what was going in the mind of this old lady. And he went straight to the old lady and asked for, please give me something to eat. And the lady was so happy. At the same time, said that, I'd like to give this to you, but I'm suffering from leprosy. I don't think that it is good for you. And he said, don't worry, just give. And she so happily poured what she was having, the porridge, into the Arhat's bowl, like this. And in the process, one of her fingers dropped. And she started to freak. She started to freak. And the Arhat could sense that she was, she was freaking. And then, very confidently, very gently, he picked up the finger, kept it aside, and right in front of the lady, he consumed the porridge. And the lady could not believe her eyes. This simply is a manifestation of the other person's love and affection. Respect for you, caring for you, a sense of caring for you. And because of this acute joy that she felt and respect that she felt, she died on the spot. that died. And because of this tremendous reverence to such a pure being and Arhat, she accumulated enormous of merit, and instantly she took birth in the realm of the god and goddesses. And then the god and goddesses, they have the inborn clairvoyance. So she, just as a goddess, she was wondering, what was the merit that accumulated that made me to take birth as a goddess? And through her clairvoyance, she could sense that just immediately a few seconds before she was that old lady in the human realm. And that lady's tremendous reverence to the Arhat, that she died, accumulated so much of spiritual karma, and that she took birth as the goddess. So she felt extremely grateful to the gesture she herself did as this old lady, and went to throw flowers to this dead body, which was still there, from dead bodies. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that this Arhat, if I don't tell you that he's Arhat, he's not a Bodhisattva, if I tell you, what do you think of this person? No doubt most of us will say that he's a Bodhisattva, right? But no, he was Arhat. So even the Arhats, they have incredible compassion. It's not that they're very selfish. This is our version of selfishness, very gross selfishness. What they have is only very subtle, the selfishness we're talking about, self-centered attitude, what they have is very subtle one, which we cannot really see them. So it is through these anecdotes that we can learn what is meant by the subtle self-centered attitude. Okay. Now the next point is that the point number one is equalizing self and others. So where you get to a point whereby you are into such an acute situation, very difficult situation, where they say either you are going to die or the other person is going to die if you don't eat this bread. Then who's going to have it? In your mind, if the thought is like, okay, it doesn't matter, so one has to die, right? Whether me or other person, no difference. You want to give to him, or give it to me. If this is how you react naturally, that is the time you are able to equalize the self and others. Whereas at that point, you say, give it to me, which you have not passed this step. So, okay, it doesn't make any difference. Somebody has to die. One has to die. You want to give to him, give it to him. You want to give me, give me. It's same. If this is your maturation, that is when you have passed the first step, equalizing self and others. Okay. So in this connection, I like to share these anecdotes are extremely important. If possible, you try to remember these anecdotes and apply this in your the practices. By recalling these anecdotes, and then try to invoke the power of your, say, the compassion, the steps. There was one. I don't remember exactly which which one. He was one of His Holiness Kanden Rinpoche. I think the present one before that. I think 4 or 5 before the present one, and he passed away a long time ago. And you see him just by the presence, you will be amazed. You'll be magnetized by him. This is the word I like to use. You'll be magnetized or hypnotized by him. Wow, such a glow there, glow of compassion. You could feel that. And it was a story shared by one of my teachers who was also a student of him. And that it was during 1960s when the Tibetans escaped to India, and even India was just a few years that they became independent, and India is so kind to give shelter and to give asylum to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all the tens of thousands of Tibetans following, coming to exile after His Holiness to India. India gave this shelter to the Tibetan, although India suffered so much under the British rule, and just a new independent nation. and still gave shelter to Tibetans. It's amazing. Which means that, in other words, everybody was poor, very poor. And then traveling by train, not like today. Aeroplane was almost like unheard of. You just, they say, oh, they were aeroplanes, that's it. But actually going by train, even the train, no first class, no AC, nothing. It was just like, we have to, whoever has the muscle, you'll get there. And this Rinpoche, he had his young disciples, his attendants. They were all very young monks with very strong muscles. And then then the train, everybody's rushed, otherwise you will not get a seat. And it's hours and hours. It's not like 2 hours, 3 hours. It's like they say 2 days, 3 days journey. You need to have a seat. And Rinpoche would be sitting there just waiting for the train, and his attendants ready to jump to the train when the train comes. And the train comes, all the attendants, they jump and make a seat, and everybody was rushing there. And then they would come, they would invite Rinpoche, now please come. And Rinpoche said, who are these people? They were all just pushing the other passengers, Indians, Tibetans, all just pushing them away. And Rinpoche, who are these people? And his attendants, they already know what Rinpoche is saying. Who are these people? Are they also going with us? And then the attendants, they know what Rinpoche is saying. So I said, yes, sir. Now they shrink. They know what Rinpoche is saying. They shrink. So they also need seats. Then the monks would say, yes, sir. And they said, let them go. Let them sit. And all the monks reserved there with force, given to others. And Rinpoche would follow them and then did not have seat. It doesn't matter. This is his practice. In practical terms, this is what what great masters do. So just see if we can emulate these great masters. Okay. This is equalizing 7 others. Now the next is, once you get through this, but in terms of practice, it is not that you you first complete this, get some experience, only then move to a second. No, this is not how it works. You have to keep practicing all these steps, although you did not pass the first step. It doesn't matter. You have to keep practicing these step by step in one session, in 15 minutes, or in half an hour. What I would say is that if you say it's quite exhausting to do the two methods together in one session. Just see if you can manage, well and good. You can do both. If you cannot manage, then alternate between the two methods. Today, if you do the sevenfold method, then the next you do the equalizing exchange method. You alternate between the two. Okay. And ideally speaking, it depends on the individual. It may take like sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes, sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 1.5 hours, depending on the availability of time and also how you proceed with the steps. Okay, but it has to be practiced. So with this, so next step is the reflect on the merits of cherishing oneself, and then reflect on the merits of cherishing others. Step 2 and 3. So these two are the main. In other words, so for the Bodhisattva practice, somehow you have to always keep watch of this self-centered attitude. Always try to see the demerits of this all the time. All the blame should go to the self-centered attitude. And the other cherishing mind, you always see the benefit of this. It is like, for example, I'm sure, how many you once upon a time, when you were in your younger days, you were looking for promotion. Presents? Yes, promotion, right? And then you get the information that, yes, you're getting promotion tomorrow. What is your mind like? It just leaps, right? So excited. Okay, so with the other cherishing mind, this excitement should come to your mind. The thought of the benefit of other cherishing, instantly your mind should be uplifted. At the cherished mind, you must feel so angry towards this. So if that happens, you are very successful in practice. If this does not happen, then all our practice is going to be very shallow and very shaky. Okay. In this connection, we need to know, what is the difference between self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude? Okay, anybody who would like to share with us, what is the difference between self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude? So here, we are primarily trying to get into the self-centered attitude. But we need to first know the distinction between these two. Anybody who likes to share with us the distinction between self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude? Anyone? Raise hands. Anyone? No one? Yes.
Sorry, just getting English. So self-grasping ignorance is the belief in some kind of permanent unitary self. And self-grasping...
Self-centered.
Self-centered attitude, sorry. I mean, I would describe it as relating to the world on the basis of that belief, on the basis of having a self-grasping.
Good.
So you can't have the second one without the first one. You can't have self-grasping, self-centered attitude without... I mean, if you get... That's my other question.
Yes.
If you have removed the self-grasping ignorance, then...
Self-centered is gone.
It would seem to sort of disappear.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes.
Moi, je pense que l'égocentrisme, ça donne lieu à des comportements. C'est la différence que je ferai, alors que la saisie du soi, je dirais pas que c'est un concept, mais enfin, ça reste. C'est au niveau de l'esprit, et l'égocentrisme, c'est les conséquences sur le comportement.
So she would say that...
Louder.
She would say that for self-centered attitude is more a question of behavior, and self-grasping would remain on the level of the mind.
Okay, this is wise answer. Good. Thank you. I agree with this. Anyone else? Yes.
Je pense que la saisie du soi, c'est un peu la racine de l'égocentrisme, c'est-à-dire c'est la première chose qui vient et qui va enclencher les liens et puis la volonté de saisir, de s'approprier des choses et ce qu'on disait, c'est-à-dire devenir un plus important que les autres.
So the self-grasping ignorance will come first, and because of that, then we will have attachment and other things and self-centered attitude.
Very good. Martin? Martin, yes. Your name?
Marie-Christine.
Mary Christian. Yes, Mary Christian. Where's Martin? Where? Yes, Martin. Okay, other Martin. Yes, two. So there are three Martins. Well, the third one is here to come. Okay. Good. Thank you, Mary Christian. Anyone else? Maybe Ben. Yes.
So the self-grasping ignorance is the mind that sees the objects as intrinsically real, when in fact they are not intrinsically real, they exist objectively. And the self-centered attitude is the mind that cherishes the self more than cherish others.
Okay. Good. Anyone else? Yes, Laura.
I would say maybe one of the differences between the two might be the self-grasping ignorance is cognitive and the self-centered attitude is affective.
Wow. Wonderful. Anyone else? Yes.
The antidotes are so different. Yeah? One side is the wisdom, the other side is altruism or
Okay, in terms of antidotes, the antidotes are different. Is what I'm saying? Good. Anyone else? Okay, overall speaking, I'm very happy with the answers given here. Say your name? Catherine. What Catherine says is that the self-grasping ignorance is to do with your mind. Self-centered attitude is to do with your behaviors. Yes, very true. And here, self-grasping is more cognitive, and self-centered attitude is more effective. What is meant by cognitive, what is effective, we'll explain this later. Very good. And then the Ben, self-grasping ignorance, is where you see the object is intrinsically real, and self-centered attitude is where you see yourself more important than others. We're going to discuss on this also. And then what Mary Christian said. Mary Christian, what did you say? Mary Christian, what did you say?
C'était la racine, finalement, l'ignorance, c'est la racine de la saisie du soi. Donc la saisie du soi va enclencher toutes ces choses négatives, dont l'égocentrisme. Oui.
So ignorance would be the root of a self-centered attitude.
No, you said it earlier. You said it differently, and I was very impressed. Now you changed it.
Non, l'ignorance, c'est ce qui va générer la saisie du soi. La saisie du soi va à ce moment-là générer dans les 12 liens tout ce qui va nous amener à effectivement avoir ces perceptions, ces attachements et cette volonté à ce moment-là de saisir les choses pour soi, c'est-à-dire l'égocentrisme. Mais c'est un peu plus long.
So we have the ignorance that grasps at the self, and because of that then we have the other links of dependent origination. We have attachment and aversion and things like this, and we want things for ourselves.
Okay. Okay, so what the Mary Christian said is that the ignorance comes first, self-grasping ignorance. Then with the self-centered attitude, it makes you to go into the other links like attachment and so forth, accumulate karma, and then name and form, all these things come into existence. Very good. Okay. And then what Stephen said is a big question, is a big challenge, saying that once the self-grasping ignorance is gone, then self-centered should be gone. But what we are saying is that for the arhats, self-grasping ignorance is gone, but they still have the self-centered attitude. So the question is, what is that self-centered attitude? We'll explain it. So because this is a tendency where we tend to have when we see that once the self-grasping ignorance is gone, self-centered attitude should be gone, right? But what we are saying is very different. In the case of arhats, self-grasping ignorance is gone, but they still have the self-centered attitude. So what is that self-centered attitude? This question. And how can you explain that self-centered attitude still exists in the case of somebody who has already eradicated self-grasping ignorance? This is a very serious question. Okay, so let's work on this. Let me give you a very simple example, and then from this you will know what is affective, what is cognitive, and what is mind, what is behavior, and what is the distortion on the level of object, and then your emotions of I, how they come into play. So these will all come into this from this example. So let's say that okay, how many you in your life you had very pleasant dreams? Raise hands. At least once or twice. How many you had very unpleasant dreams? At least once or twice. How many you had neutral dreams? At least once or twice. In other words, in your life, how many you had sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant, sometimes neutral dreams? Raise your hands. Good. Okay, let's say let's say in one dream, once you sleep, you have a dream. Within that dream, you see that there are three episodes, one after the other. So the first dream is let's say that you are in your respective the houses. Number one, very normal, neutral. Okay, this is what I do normally. Then number two, you get the email from Venerable Elizabeth. all the participants of this this teaching, you will have a privilege of having audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Wow, that's very nice. Number 2. Then number 3, right? Then, so you have to come by this date, and then you come on the way. You had accident, very unpleasant. So first one is neutral. Second one is very pleasant. Third one is very unpleasant. But then the same, let's say, dream, you see that there are 3 different episodes. Okay, which do you like the most? The first one, second one, third one? The second one. When invited to have audience with His Holiness, second one. Okay, so let's say the second one, that the using the email, or let's say email, is that your mental projection or is objectively there? Anyone? It's just a dream, right? It's a dream. It's a mental projection. Number 1 is a mental projection. It's a dream. Don't forget it. Number 1. So this dream, what's the difference between these 3 things? Say you dream, actually you are here in Kalachakra Center, but you dream of being in your own respective house, going around, doing groceries, and so forth. It's very neutral. So that dream. Second part, you receive email saying that, you are privileged to be in the sign up for the audience with His Holiness. Wow, nice. Then the third, go in the car, and then the car or train or whatever, accident. Very unpleasant. What is the common thing among these 3 dreams? Tell me.
They're not real. That the actions are not real. They're fabricated by our mind.
How many agree with the Christian? How many agree with the Christian that all these 3 things are the same in ways that they're all projected by your mind? Raise hands. But they do differ. They do differ. One is pleasant. One is unpleasant. One is neutral. What do you mean by pleasant? My mind, I like this. What is unpleasant? I don't like this. You're getting it? And they're neutral. So. So they differ in that quality, but they're same in the cognitive, the activity of your mind to believe the dream as real. You agree? That is the cognitive error. Believing the dream as objectively real, not as coming from a mind, but as objectively real. Grasping at the dream as objectively real. This is self-grasping ignorance. Grasping at the dream, what is projected by mind, as real. As not projected by mind, as objectively real. This is known as self-grasping ignorance. Why the word self is used? Self. Self is not necessarily person. Say for example, this flower is yellow from its own self. From its own side. By itself, it is yellow. I did not paint it yellow. By itself, it is yellow. Itself. So this word self can be applied to even to the non-animate objects. So self-grasping. Self has a connotation of something from the self there as objective. Self has a connotation of the objectivity. Something from the object. Seeing things as objectively real. Believing things objectively real. This is a self-grasping ignorance. Okay. With the self-grasping ignorance, when you see the self-grasping ignorance, is it necessary that that I like to have it? Does it necessarily happen, or it may not happen, although you see the object as objectively real? Is it necessary? The moment you see something as objectively real, then you glue to the object. Is it necessary or not? Huh? Okay, Dr. Patrick, how not?
Because it's not because you see some things that you can say that it's real. If you see a rainbow, it's not a real...
Okay, so the point is that when you see the pleasant dream, you believe the pleasant dream as believe the pleasant dream as objectively real. This is grasping at the object as the selfhood as objectively real. So that's self-grasping ignorance. But if the dream is unpleasant, you're not attached to it. You agree with me? If the dream is very unpleasant, you will be averse towards it. That is aversion. That is anger, aversion. When the dream is pleasant, you like it. This is attachment. When the dream is neutral, your mind is neutral. There's no attachment, no aversion. Just the flow of the ignorance happens. That, this is ordinary flower. I don't really like it. I don't dislike it also. So there, seeing the dream flower as real flower, that ignorance continues. So, seeing things objectively real can trigger three different emotions. Can potentially trigger three different emotions. One is attachment, one is aversion, one is ignorance. Okay, now seeing the object as objectively real, which is self-grasping ignorance, does it guarantee that you will feel attached to the object? Not necessary. So, to feel attached to it, what is required? You're getting it? Say, I'll give you one example. Okay, is there any big shopping malls around? Shopping malls. No, in Paris. Right? Many. Let's say one. Give me one example. Galerie Lafayette. So first, the Galerie Lafayette did not fall from the sky. Right? First somebody has to create it. Right? Create the Galerie Lafayette and then display all the objects there. This is, you creating the dream. After creating the dream, then the Galerie Lafayette is ready. Inauguration starts. Today's inauguration. Till that point, nobody comes to shop. The Lafayette. So the Galerie Lafayette is prepared. Is ready now. You have already created the dream. After creating the dream, then after the inaugural, then the shoppers come. Right? Shoppers come. I like this. I don't like this. I like this. Shoppers come later. So the one who created this Galerie Lafayette, that is the self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance creates the dream. Then the shoppers come. That is self-centered attitude. I like this. Shoppers come. That is a self-centered attitude. You're getting it? Okay. So the dream. You create the dream. That is self-grasping. Say this is self-grasping ignorance. Then when the dream is pleasant, you say, I like it. That is self-centered attitude. So these two together, then the gross afflictions arise. Attachment, anger, jealousy, all these gross afflictions arise because of the self-grasping ignorance complemented by self-centered attitude. Then the gross afflictions arise. So arahats, they do not have the self-grasping ignorance, because of which all these gross afflictions stop. Attachment, anger, jealousy, all these things stop for them, because there's no the shopping mall created by the mind. They stop the shopping mall, because of which self-grasping ignorance does not have the shopper, or the shopper is there. The shopper doesn't have things to shop. I like this, I don't like this. They don't have the things to shop. So the shopper is there. Self-grasping ignorance, self-centered attitude is there, but they cannot do the shopping, because the projection, self-grasping ignorance is not there. So the self-centered attitude is there, but the self-grasping ignorance is not there. When the self-grasping ignorance is not there, then this self-centered attitude does not have anything to do. What is the job of the shoppers? It's to do the shopping. They should be the shop there. When the shop is not there, the shopper remains jobless. So then it becomes like inactive state. Inactive states, the self-centered attitude becomes like inactive. So when the self-centered attitude mixed with this self-grasping ignorance, then the gross afflictions arise. Attachment, anger, jealousy. I like this. Self-grasping ignorance should have created this, the dream-like phenomena as object real. And then I like this attachment. I don't like this aversion. All these gross afflictions arise. And these afflictions give rise to the contaminated karmas. And contaminated karmas gives rise to suffering. This is how it operates. So next question is how many you got a little bit of understanding the difference between self-grasping, ignorant, self-centered attitude. Say sometimes how many you had what is known as sometimes you can have what is known as lucid dream, REM sleep, lucid dream, where you have a very vivid dream, but you are aware that it is dream. How many of you had that experience at least once in your lifetime? Raise hands. Lucid dream. Okay, so there you dream. You dream, your mind projects things, but you are aware that this is dream. So when you're aware that this is dream, then I like this, I don't like this will not happen as much. When you're aware that this dream. When you're unaware that this is dream, then I like this, I don't like this becomes very strong. I like this, I don't like this. This is known as attachment and aversion. Very gross version of the attachment aversion. So therefore, say ceasing karmas and afflictions is nirvana. Karmas and afflictions arise from the conceptualization of inappropriate attention, which in turn arises from the elaboration of self-grasping ignorance. And this elaboration ceases through the wisdom of emptiness. When that is said, the afflictions, ceasing karmas and afflictions, that affliction refers to the gross afflictions, like attachment, gross aversion, and so forth. Okay, so in other words, in simple terms, when the self-centered attitude is mixed with the self-grasping ignorance, then that becomes the gross self-centered attitude. When self-centered attitude is mixed with the self-grasping ignorance, then gives rise to the gross self-centered attitude. Otherwise, when the self-centered is without the self-grasping ignorance, when the self-centered attitude left alone, it is the subtle self-centered attitude which the arahats have. Okay. How many of you got some idea now? Or self-grasping ignorance is more cognitive. You project things and you believe that it is true. That's it. Affinity is not yet to come. Is yet to come. So cognitive meaning, it is what your mind plays, your mind creates. That's it. And then the next comes, I like it, I don't like it. That's a self-centered attitude. So self-centered attitude is like the affinity. I like it, I don't like it. The mind moves towards the object or runs away from the object. So the self-grasping ignorance doesn't move or run away. It just creates the object and then believe it to be true. That is self. For example, let's say that this group you don't like, you're not really fond of flowers, and this group is so fond of flowers. I ask the group A and B, what is this? Group A and B both will say this is a flower. Whether you like it or not, whether you have the affinity to it or not, you all will say that this is a flower. This is purely cognitive mental process. Cognitive thought process. This is a flower. And which both of you have. And my next question, do you like it? Group B will say, yes, we like it. Group A says, so. So then the affinity comes in. Affinity. So this distinction, what is cognitive and what is effective, or the affinity, this distinction must be made. You're getting it? So the cognitively speaking, whether you like it or not, both will agree that this is a flower. This is cognitive. Then the affective is, do you like it? how beautiful it is. Oh, it's so beautiful, which means that the person has the affective part of the mind is very active. But it's so, which means affective part is not so active. So, a self-centered attitude is affective in nature, and self-grasping ignorance is cognitive in nature. Let's not forget it. Okay. So, having said this, having made this distinction, this is so important, and just see how true that is. Of course, that will make complete sense to us once you get a glimpse of emptiness, and to know this affective part of the mind and the cognitive part of the mind related to afflictions. Say that let's say that we all realize emptiness. We see that everything is like a dream. When you realize this, when you see that, for example, say somebody says something offensive, then you feel mentally disturbed, agitated inside. So this agitation, unhappiness, or a little bit of anger, so this anger is the affliction. And that your mind doesn't want it. They say it runs away from the object. And why that happens? Because I see that person as objectively real. And that what he said, I don't like it. Self-centered attitude. And I see that person as object real, that's self-grasping ignorance. And then I don't like it. That's self-centered attitude. So, combined together, then you run away from this object. This is the gross anger or aversion. And when somebody says nice thing about you, particularly genuinely tells you something, very nice, genuinely, then you feel close to the person. Again, the person's object, real self-grasping ignorance, and then I like what the person said. I like self-centered attitude comes in, combined together, your mind will be glued towards what the person said. This attachment. So this is how attachment aversion works. Self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude play together, then the gross afflictions arise. Attachment, anger, jealousy, fear, all these things arise. Okay, this is what we have to know very clearly. Okay. How many more sessions we have for this?
One more this afternoon.
This afternoon, one more? I don't see that in the timetable. So
il y a marqué NCC le 28, donc ça voudrait dire qu'aujourd'hui il n'y a pas de NCC. Le 29 il n'y a pas.
Okay, good. Okay, we have one more session this afternoon. So that's for any question that you might have. Okay, before there's the Stephen's question. Once you eradicate the self-grasping ignorance, projection stops. How can we still have the self-centered attitude? This question. Do you follow the question? Let me repeat it. Once you eradicate the self-grasping ignorance, how can we still have this self-centered attitude? The subtle self-centered attitude. This question. Okay, let me put it like this. Let's say, subtle self-centered attitude, as I said earlier, this self-centered attitude, it is not cognitively erroneous. The subtle self-centered attitude, it is not cognitively mistaken. Cognitively, it is perfect. It simply means I am important. Conventionally, you are important. You're getting it? When we say, I'm more important than others, this is not valid. This is cognitively wrong. Whereas when you say, I'm important, this is fine, this is not wrong. This is not wrong. You are important. You can become Buddha, because you are very important. You can become Buddha to benefit all the beings. You are very important. You are important. But when you say, I'm more important than others, this is when we go wrong. This is cognitively erroneous. But it's a subtle self-centered attitude says, I'm important. What's the problem with this? I'm important, yet you are oblivious to others. Yet you are oblivious to the importance of others. It's not that you're being indifferent. Indifferent means, I don't care whether you're good. Whether bad, who cares? This is being indifferent. This is so bad. But here in the case of the self-centered attitude, the arahats, it's not like being indifferent. Only thing is that they are just self-focused. Focus on the self, but being oblivious toward others. That's it. Because they are not trained that way to think of others. Bodhisattvas, they deliberately trained to think of others all the time. This difference. So cognitively, it is not erroneous. So even if you realize emptiness, this still remains a reality that you are important. Because of this mind to think that I'm important cannot be eradicated. Even after you become enlightened, even after you realize emptiness, because this is valid the reality that you are important. Whereas when you see that I'm more important than others, this is cognitively erroneous. When you realize emptiness, even before you realize emptiness, you can see that this does not hold true. You can eradicate this because this is cognitively erroneous. But it's a subtle self-centered attitude. It is not cognitively erroneous. It is cognitively valid mind. What's the problem with this? It's only very narrow in the scope of thinking. Very narrow. Just I, right? You talk of the I. I'm suffering. I want happiness. I want to realize emptiness. Only about I. You don't really. Your mind is so narrow. The way Anne Sophie said, your mind is so narrow. You can't really expand. You are not trained. So it's so important. In practical terms, what I'm saying is that it's so important for us not be so much, self-absorbed. In our life, try to, expand your thought for others also. You're getting it? This is so important. Okay, to give you one example. Say, yesterday, in the morning, when I was reading the morning, when we were doing the prayers in the morning, I could not see this. The light is so pale, so faint, the light. The light was so faint. And then I can say that when Jimbala, this light is so faint, he could change this. But others also have the light, very faint. Right? So I said that all should be changed. Not only mine. Right? It's not only problem with me, problem with all of us. So like this is how we have to learn how to think of others. Not only just self-absorbed. This is training, is a part of training of the Bodhisattva practice. To think of others. It's so important. And also, Ukraine war. This is about Ukraine, Russian, poor Ukrainians. Don't think like this. You talk about it, even though you cannot do anything. Right? You talk about it. Show your disapproval to what what Putin did. Show the disapproval to other people. To give moral support to somebody who is being victimized by somebody so selfishly. Even though you are helpless, you're going to do them, but at least give moral support. Talk about it to other people, And where if you can write something, write. So whatever you can do that. This is the training of the Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattva's path. This is so precious. Yeah, and then from your, don't say, another thing that we need to keep in mind is one of the deterrent factors of the Bodhisattva's path is the expectation in return. When you do something good, expecting something in return, that must be cut. Just see how to minimize that. Skillfulness is another one extremely important part of the Bodhisattva's practice. They're not expecting anything in return. That's another practice. Number 3 is the courage. Courage to speak for the truth. Courage to speak for the others. To make things happen for others. These are so important. As long as as long as I'm not affected, it's fine. There is their job. No. If this is your attitude thus far, never mind. Just try to expand it. Just try to see that, okay, now I must change. Yes, what I learned of the Bodhisattva practices and what I do, there's the contrast there. So see what I can do to help others, make things happen. And let's say, for example, say some of you are like bureaucrats, right? Bureaucrats or the politicians, or in your own capacity, you're in a company as some senior manager or whatever. So don't be good at saying no. Don't be good at saying no. When you say yes, it's not difficult. It's not easy. It's difficult to say yes because you have to make things happen. But just learn how to say yes. And by saying no, somebody else is into problem because something's not happening to the other person. Just say how to say yes and make it happen. So these are Bodhisattva's practice. Okay, we stop here. Tiyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata